So, if you haven't heard by now, there's this new game called Remnant 2 that is basically taking the gaming world by storm. And for good reason. Remnant 2 is a sequel to a game that I loved called Remnant from the Ashes. This sequel isn't a typical sequel that you see for video games. It's not lazy at all. It's not a copy-paste with just a little more. It keeps that original feel of the game, but it turns everything up like 10 notches. I was super excited for this one and seriously was not disappointed at all. As a quick YouTube channel update, I know this game is super late. It's been out for a while now. You probably already know that this is definitely a buy. I still wanted to get this review out. I really like this game way too much to just skip over it. I'm trying to keep up with the new releases right now. I've got this game and I'm in the middle of Baldur's Gate 3. Another really long title. I'm probably going to drop something like a small review in progress or maybe just impressions, at least until I can get a full review out. I don't like to review games before I at least beat them, and that game is really long. So if this is kind of slow, I'm sorry again. It's 2023 has just been nuts. Before I get into story and gameplay, I want to talk a bit about the first Remnant game and what makes this sequel so unique. Remnant 2 builds on the random dungeons and encounters that you have got from Remnant 1. There are 6 total worlds in this game, with 1 being your base. The game is a Souls-like first-person shooter. You drop into a world that gets randomized with random dungeons, random story, and explore. You don't have any quest markers or anything like that. It shocks you at first because we're just so used to having our hands held with, video games, but this one just dumps us out there and says figure it out. You explore the area, you run into random bosses, you get crafting material, you make really cool weapons or gear for your character, and you move on. The game is also difficult, hence that whole Souls comparison that I said earlier, and you'll be dodging attacks and learning patterns, but the difference here is that you get to select the difficulty from an easy, which wasn't really that easy, medium, and a hard mode. Remnant 2 is designed for more than one playthrough, and coming from someone who rarely plays a game twice, to be honest with you all, I've already started my second playthrough, and I've been re-rolling worlds just to find all of the secrets. I really feel like if you play this game one time, you're not even getting maybe half of the game. There's countless TikTok videos that keep coming out where I keep saving them because there's unique armor I've never heard of, or guns, or even subclasses. The random procedural generation keeps your interactions fresh in the game. There's different storylines that you could run into. I re-rolled Nerud, for example, and I had a whole new beginning that I've just never seen before, as well as like a boss battle that was a train simulation thing. It was awesome. It was completely different from my first time. You can find an alien ship, a unique boss, and you just keep re-rolling to get this super rare weapon. What makes it so awesome is that you can drop in with a friend, and even if you've already beat the game, you're most likely going to see something that you've never seen before. It makes the game super fun, and it's just easy to play with friends or even solo. As for the worlds are super unique. There's a labyrinth maze type of world. You have a world that's the closest thing we're going to get to a Bloodborne sequel or kind of Resident Evil style village. You've also got an alien spaceship world that I mentioned earlier that's more of like this wasteland desert with technology and robots. There's even like a forest type world with really interesting different enemies and different bosses that you can run into that fit each theme of these worlds. It's the attention to detail there, the environments that you're in, it's amazing. When you start the game off, it's super simple. There's a character creator that kind of sucks, to be honest with you. You're not really making a character. You get like 7 faces and 5 hairstyles. The only thing I think that matters here is that your character does talk, so pick a voice that's not going to bother you too much. There are like weird post-fight, cringe dialogue, like, yeah, sucker, get some, and weird shit like that. I don't know why that's in there, but the game does have just a ton of dialogue, and if you sit there and you listen to it all, or pick the right choices, you can get a unique item, a gift, or even just a boss fight if you choose wrong. It's so crazy to me how creative this game was designed. When you're done creating your character, there's a tutorial segment, and that's where the story just starts. To give a summary of what I kind of got from the story, which, keep in mind, you don't have to play the first game to understand this one. Humanity's basically screwed. Humans unleash something called the Root. You're looking for a Ward 13 safe haven. You find it, and a girl that you meet is sucked into a crystal. You go into the crystal and enter different worlds to try to save her. There's an issue that's happening on each of these worlds that you have to basically solve by the end. You kill mini bosses and dungeons, and then you finally get to a main boss, get something that lets you go to the next world, and move on to try to stop this whole root thing completely. Story is super weird. The writing at times is cringe, but I mean, honestly, the story might be the weakest part about the game entirely. I mean, people that are into lore might really like this world, and I just couldn't find myself getting sucked into it. But the gameplay, on the other hand, is really where I got addicted and where I think Remnant 2 shines. They have this thing called, I think, procedural generation, and basically what happens with that is that the game stays fresh. And that wouldn't matter if the gameplay was boring, and this game is just far from it. It's a third-person, Gears of War style. You throw in dodging, you throw in rolling, melee weapons, gun mods, and even a dog if you pick that class, right? I mean, the game really just stands out when it comes to its combat. The flow can go from your gun to fire bullets and end in a secondary grenade launcher. You pick a class at the beginning of the game, and I think there's like 11 total, and these provide unique armor and abilities. I chose the handler because none of my friends wanted to buy the game, so I had a dog that was my buddy. The handler had this dog that basically has saved my ass so many times. But sometimes, with the bosses that are flying and stuff, it was kind of worthless, but really cool for some health or maybe just a last minute res. Eventually, I think around level 10, I was able to get a second class, but they hide these behind materials that you get to craft. I had to seriously listen to an old man's stories, just constant. I don't even know how long I stood there just skipping his dialogue. Some of them were kind of funny, but I think I listened to like 20 stories from this old guy, and then he finally gives me something that gave me the gunslinger class, which is a secret class in the game. There's, I think, 6 or 7 when you start out, and then there's 5 or 4 that are basically these secret unlocks. On top of the secret classes, there's secret weapons, and there's secret armor that you get, and that all depends on what level you're in, how you even kill a boss, what you answer to the bosses that talk to you, and even find just secret areas. I mean, I saw a video earlier that someone literally waited 90 minutes for a room to fill up with water to get a grenade launcher. It's seriously insane, but I mean, it's just so cool that this is a thing. The boss battles are challenging and are honestly at times frustrating. You can always co-op it and get some help from randoms, or you could tackle it alone with your pup like me. I mean, I didn't think the game was too hard at all, but I've already moved up to the next difficulty level, especially now that my character's leveled up. I had, I think, 2 bosses that I was just really stuck on. I felt unnecessarily hard, kind of cheap. There was like off-screen attacks that would happen. And there was one boss that basically insta-kills you if you get near a wall. When it comes to this, I'm going to say the same thing I said about Millennia in Elden Ring. I think a hard boss that you could figure out is awesome, but a boss that just feels cheap sucks, and it gets you feeling like you're banging your head against the wall. I didn't think I'd get past one of these, but I mean, it felt awesome to overcome it, which is, admittedly, I mean, it's the best part of these difficult type of games, is that feeling of success when you beat a boss that killed you 32 times. Something new I want to start adding to my reviews is that the Remnant is Steam Deck verified. I picked up both the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck during the summer sale, and I love the Ally, but my system crapped out on me on day 12, so I returned it. I don't want to get into the whole Steam Deck and ROG Ally beef and war. Play whatever toy you like the most. I mean, if you have either of these systems, you can play this game on the go. On my Steam Deck, because that's all I got to play it on, I had to drop things down to 720p. It's not as strong as the ROG Ally, and the 800p just wasn't really working out. The frame rate was ridiculous. The game also doesn't look good, and it's got a weird distortion. I ended up on the lowest settings. I even put ultra performance on. And to be honest, if you're a Steam Deck main, if you don't have a PC, don't buy this and expect it to run like the other Steam Deck verified games. I don't understand how it's verified. I hope the developers are able to fix things and make it a better experience, because I mean, it's playable, but I feel like you should only play it there in like desperation, because the game just looks so good and the experience is so good on a computer and even on console. I mean, console had some performance issues, but it's been patched. On my Steam Deck, for example, I got 30 to 35 frames. That's with me turning things down. There was that weird distortion, and sometimes it dropped to 20s. While, on my 3080 PC, I was playing in 4K and I was staying at around 70 to 80 frames. There's so much to cover about this game. I seriously feel like I've just scratched the surface of it. I'm finding out new things all the time. This game has just blown my mind with the amount of secrets, the attention to detail. To wrap things up, do yourself a favor, go buy Remnant 2 right now. I mean, the game is developed by a small AA studio and is basically worth $50 or more. I would spend 70 on this game. With how many secrets, how many unlocks you get, the level design, the gorgeous graphics, and just overall replayability, the game just falls, I think, a little bit short of just being perfect. I would score Remnant 2 a solid 9 out of 10, and I think it barely misses that 10 out of 10 mark just because the story just wasn't really grabbing me. If you've been here before, I'm a gamer that has a full-time job, so gaming for me is my hobby, it's not my job. I value time, and games lately like Assassin's Creed want to do 300-hour titles, which I think is amazing value for $60, right? But not if you're bored by the 30th hour. I'm already at 30 hours in Remnant 2, and I'm telling you now, I will keep going. There's a lot of new drops that are coming out, Baldur's Gate, Starfield, but it's just so hard to put this one down, especially considering how much there is for you to discover. And all of this is just for $50 freaking dollars. You don't have any DLC classes to pay for. You can unlock everything. There's no gun microtransactions, no skins. You don't have to worry about buying armor. Everything in the game is there for you to unlock, just like the good old days. I think if you're even a little bit interested in Remnant 2, do yourself a favor, buy this game, seriously. I think the developers have created an outstanding title. This is my favorite surprise of the year. And I mean, the money that I spent and the time that I had with this game, I think the value is there, and I seriously can't even wait for more expansions to drop for this game.
Thanks a lot.
If you liked the video and you want to see more game reviews and impressions, drop a like and subscribe. Help us take on that horrible YouTube algorithm. We're a new channel, we're still growing, and please, seriously, go get Remnant 2, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Taken up a dangerous game, taunting a wild beast for their amusement. If they continue